Coming up on today's episode.
I wondered, what the fuck did I just watch? I just ordered it Subway.
Yeah, it's so good. I can't even say I love you to my guy friends.
Wait till you get older.
You're essentially watching someone for 100 minutes not know how to read a room.
Yes.
I mean, that is the movie.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Ryan Vanderhart. I am a writer, director, and longtime cinephile. And to my left is my co-host.
That's me.
And that is...
I'm Joe.
In case you didn't know.
How y'all doing? Yeah.
Joe is an actor here in
Oh,
LA.
it's true. I know. I just went totally quiet.
You were like, Joe?
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm an actor guy here in LA. And I like movies a lot.
And that's why we do this.
That's why we do this.
We started to have coffees and we would talk for hours just about, we'd both be like,
that's quite true.
I got to go. Like, we have to stop this. I have somewhere to be.
Yeah.
And then we were like, if we have these conversations, why don't we put a couple of microphones and a
couch.
And a couch.
Yeah. And a cat.
That won't be with us much longer.
Oh, that's going to be lost in the move, huh?
We'll be finding chairs. We're actually going to the flea market tomorrow or Sunday
to buy
some chairs. But anyway, I digress. Okay. On today's episode, Beyond the Frame, we're talking about the 2025 A24 comedy indie film, Friendship. And the theme that we're going to explore is the complications of male bonding. Because boy, are there some. And this movie explores it. And it doesn't save anything for the imagination.
No.
It really gets in there.
Uh-huh.
We'll get there. This is our spoiler-free section. So if you haven't seen the movie not yet, you're safe. I will let you know when we're heading into spoiler territory. Joe, I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
Initial thoughts. Did it stay with you after you got to your car?
It stayed with me because I wondered, what the fuck did I just watch? That's
a fair assessment. That is a fair judgment to make on this movie.
So in that sense, it did. It just had my wheels spinning. I appreciated a lot of the buttons that it pushed. Mm-hmm. At times, it felt like a fever dream. At other times, I felt like if I'd been really stoned, it might have made more sense. So it stayed with me, just not for the typical reasons of like, I was really like moved, or just like, wow, it's like, what just happened?
And some movies do that.
Yeah.
I mean, some movies stay with me where I have to kind of break it down in my head and I have to decipher what I just watched. And like, what did that mean? And how did it all, like, what was the point of it all? And I think that a lot of it was what this one was.
For sure.
Someone on IMDb wrote a review and titled it Torn in all caps. And I think that pretty much sums up.
Totally get it. Yeah.
My experience as well.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I want to say off the bat here,
okay,
right
please
at the
say
top
them.
of this.
Don't hold back, man.
This movie was absolutely hilarious. It was well shot. Mm-hmm. It was original. Mm-hmm. And it had some fantastic performances.
Agreed.
It was shot like a drama, not like a comedy. Mm-hmm. This is a visually stunning film with muted colors, wide shots, dramatic lighting. It doesn't feed into those traditional comedic concepts.
Not at all.
Harsh lighting and flat.
No.
And, it really, you're feeling like you're watching a drama, like an indie drama, an indie charmer. And then yet there's this just hilarious undertone with these fantastic jokes.
We have to qualify the type of hilarity here. Okay. It's cringe hilarity.
Yeah, definitely.
Serious cringe hilarity.
It's like behavior comedy.
Yes.
Is a lot of what it is. It's the bodily movements of this person. Everything that this character, who we're going to talk a lot about, Craig, embodied was... He was just funny in just existing in life. He was just funny. Just the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he looked, his facial expressions. Like, he just was funny as a person. Like, we all know people in our lives or have met people who they're just funny. Whatever it is about them, they're just funny. And this guy and this character specifically was that to me. I can speak only for myself here,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in the Thursday afternoon in LA. That's the great thing about being here is that everybody shows up for movies. And so I'm in a Thursday afternoon, the theater's packed, and the guy's face popped up and everyone laughed.
Oh my God.
Nothing happened. There was no dialogue.
Interesting.
Nothing had happened yet. We just saw his face and we all laughed. This guy just has that ability, I think. So I don't know. We're gonna get more into it.
Okay.
But, it doesn't feed into the traditional comedic tropes, and I respect
Absolutely.
that a lot. Much like Emilia Perez, I can really appreciate a one-of-one film.
Yeah.
I have appreciation for people who are willing to take a chance and create a original piece of art.
Yeah.
And this felt like that.
Yeah. I hear you. Here I am stammering because I still don't know what to make of what we saw. But I give it all those kudos and points as well. Because it's brave filmmaking in
Yeah.
a sense. You know, everyone keeps their clothes on. It's not brave in any that kind of sense,
Yeah.
but just where they go and norms that they stomp all over. Yeah, they would go there wherever there is, and
However
whatever sacred
ridiculous-
cow
Yeah.
they're going to decimate. But they did it. You know,
They didn't spare us at all, and it really, really shines through. I actually laughed out loud several times, and I don't do that. I kind of chuckle to myself.
Yeah.
I'm internally laughing, but there was a couple of times where I was that guy who was like laughing audibly out loud, and so was the majority of the theater that I was in. I will talk about specific moments later in our spoiler section. The comedic timing of the edit, we talked about that with Lady Bird. That's so important, as well as Tim Robinson's facial expressions were just incredible. He's our lead character. He plays Craig in the film, and his facial expressions were all I needed, just like in drama. In drama, you can say so much as an actor just with your facial expressions.
Absolutely.
You can reveal a lot. You can withhold a lot. And his facial expressions were just hilarious. Spot on. We had another fantastic establishing scene. We talk about those a lot. This movie was exactly the same. We got the type of comedy we were in for. We got to meet our two characters. We understood their dynamic, and we had sort of a little egg of what we needed to. Okay, I know what I'm in for the rest of this film, and that's a good establishing scene. This movie's no different. Now,
yeah,
all that being said,
yeah,
this was a learning experience for me. I have to remember what movie I'm watching, and I have to unburden myself from my own expectations.
okay,
By the end of the film, I was unsatisfied, and I think that's because I go into a film expecting a complete story. I expect an arc. I expect a beginning, middle, and end. I expect payoff, a character that learns, grows. That's what I personally, Ryan, want out of a film. Those are the films that I enjoy the most. However, I have to be mindful of what I'm going into. It's the John Wick we talk about a lot. It's the John Wicks, right? When I sit down to watch that movie, I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting good action, and I get it. And I'm leaving the theater very satisfied because I'm like, that was badass.
right,
It pushed the boundaries. The action sequences were incredible, and I get what I came for. I need to be better at what my expectations are with the film, because I went into this one, I was kind of confused by the trailer, and I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know what I was in store for, but I went in with my usual expectations of there'll be a character arc, they'll learn, there'll be, a plot line that's interesting, and I didn't get that. And I think that's a problem with me. That's not with the film. And that's why I wanted to start by listing all of the ways in which this film succeeded. Because I do think it is a good movie. It's just I had different expectations.
Okay. I would so love to ask you more questions and comment, but since this is the spoiler-free section, I don't think I can quite yet, because I want to talk about certain things within the movie that I found perplexing and wondered if it was just for the sake of being perplexing. I just felt like you're messing with me. I felt like I was just being messed with a lot of times.
Okay.
Including the very last scene with the wink.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
This was pure nightmare fuel. I mean,
Totally. That's a great way to put it.
It was very hard to watch.
That's a really good way to put it.
At times because of the extreme social awkwardness of our lead character, Craig. You're essentially watching someone for 100 minutes not know how to read a room.
Yes.
I mean, that is the movie.
And not only not know how to read a room, but will then get up. I mean, it's one thing to not read a room and not say much, not do much. But he
was saying a lot, and he was doing a lot.
And he was doing a lot with a complete inability or a complete lack of care for reading a room. Whatever his motivation was, he didn't read the room, but was he going to make a big impact on that room?
Sure was.
So yeah, it's cringe.
It was a fever dream, to say the least.
Totally.
But I do think it's important to say, I think that the filmmaker did a fantastic job. We'll get into him later.
Yeah.
And Craig, or our lead here, Tim Robinson, did a fantastic job. Paul Rudd, everybody was great in this, and the comedic
Kate
timing.
Mara, I thought
Kate
was
Mara,
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
This was one of her first comedies she's ever done. Everybody was good. It was shot well. It felt like an A24 film. If that's what you're looking to go for, you will get that. You will be satisfied with that. The jokes landed for me. Everything was, it was great. It just don't go into it expecting this moving story that's gonna,
Yeah, I would like to
have a huge payoff. It's not, you're not going to get that.
You're not going. You touched on something too. You're not going to get a main character who's going through this movie and through this story arc and understanding more. This guy doesn't understand any more at the end than he did at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already gotten that far in life, and he's that way. Well, then what leads you to believe that anything is going to be different later on?
Sure. And things happen to him throughout that he just doesn't learn from, just over and over again. And it's frustrating to watch as somebody who's like,
right.
It pushes your buttons, which I think was a lot of maybe what they were going for.
I think that's absolutely
and they accomplished the goal.
For.
So I think this is going to be an interesting, did our stars align? Because where did we land this then? Because it was hard. You said before we started, I think, that you had a hard time rating this.
Very hard time.
Me too. I sat.
And even as we're sitting here thinking, I'm vacillating.
I know. I feel like I should change mine a little bit.
But I feel like I should change mine too. I will say that I gave my score because of how much it pushed my buttons. And I give credit to a movie that moves me in a particular way. Not just like if it's going to be like Saw 12 and all you get is like, people getting cut up. Yeah, that's going to move me. But out of the cinema is how it's going to move me. But I mean that it just had me questioning. And I give it points for because it did stay with me afterwards. And it didn't stay with me for necessarily the reasons I would like. It didn't feel good. But I give a film credit for having that impact on me.
Totally.
Will I see it again? And one thing I was thinking during the film, I thought this a few times. I thought this could go on to be, if not a real, blockbuster, it could go on to be a complete cult classic.
Oh, 100%. I got that feeling as well.
Yeah. that people in 10 years will be like, oh my God, have you ever heard of this movie? You got to check this out. Because it's such a specific flavor, if you will,
That's a great way to put it.
that I'm not familiar with this flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not it's not a flavor I go to. But again, I give it credit for for what it is. It was done really well.
Yeah, and the originality.
The originality is massive.
It's always exciting for me to go to the cinema and see something I've never seen before. No matter what it is. No matter if
Agreed.
it pushes my buttons in the right or wrong way, whatever emotions it evokes, it's always to me interesting and exciting and intriguing to go see a movie I've never seen. And when I walked into the theater, I sat down and I watched a movie I have never seen before.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. and I'm going to guess, if we're looking at the stars aligned, I'm going to guess you gave it a 3.5.
You're right. You're spot on. I gave it a 3.5, Joe. I think you gave it a 3.5.
You are absolutely correct.
Our stars are aligned here on Letterboxd.
That
We
is
scored
funny.
Friendship a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
That says a lot for two people who, again, this isn't maybe our flavor
No,
or our cup
it isn't
of tea.
my flavor. It's not.
But the fact that we still gave it that high of a rating to me
Yes.
just says that how well executed it was.
It was so well executed, and it was so confusing and conflicting. And it's one of those movies that I got out of there and I wanted to talk with somebody about it. I mean,
Yeah.
here we are doing this, and I
Yeah.
just saw the movie. I just got out of it this afternoon. Because hopefully we'll get into some of this, and I don't know that we're going to be able to answer each other's questions, but because there were.
We'll get there. We're
We'll get
almost
there.
there. We're almost there. So some fun facts.
Yeah, please.
About Friendship. I had to
Throw 'em
dig
on
here.
me.
I had to watch some interviews. I had to read
Oh,
some
right.
stuff because there's not much out yet
Right.
on it. But I did find out that writer-director Andrew DeYoung actually wrote this movie with Tim Robinson in mind
That doesn't surprise me even a little
for
bit.
the lead character. And he also tried to write to Tim's comedic strengths, which
he
I
did.
feel like really
Sure.
came through. It's worth noting that Tim Robinson had a sketch comedy show on Netflix that was hugely popular, very successful, called You Should Leave. I Think You Should Leave, sorry. I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. He won like 3 Emmys. It was a hit.
I'd never even heard of that show.
Me either. and
Because I
felt-
saw that too. I was like, wait a minute, I've never even heard of this.
I know,
thing.
and I felt bad, so I watched a couple of sketches.
Okay.
It makes this movie make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Because the type of comedy is the exact sort of same realm as the film. And it
Interesting.
makes sense why this works so well, because this is playing to Tim Robinson's strengths. He does this so well. He plays this awkward guy. Sort of like, I don't know what the word is for somebody who's just kind of like...
Well, right, because I was wondering, is he... Again, we're not into spoiler territory yet, so maybe
We're
I
almost
should-
there.
Okay.
I think my next fun fact.
Yeah,
yes.
do that,
Okay.
then we'll
Will
talk
be
about
a.
it.
Will this? Okay. So
Okay.
spoiler alert. We are entering spoiler
Okay,
territory. If you
okay.
haven't seen the film, go watch it. Come back and listen to the rest. There's one scene in the movie that was fully improvised,
Oh, wow.
completely and fully improvised. Only one scene, and that's the scene at the homecoming party for his wife
Yes.
when he's on the drum
On the-
set.
oh,
the guy
with
comes
the
in.
guy?
That
That was a really good scene.
yeah. That was fully improvised.
That was fully improvised, and that was, to me, that was one of the most... You know why that makes sense to me? It was the most normal scene to me
Yeah,
in the whole movie.
It was the most normal interaction.
It was the
that,
most
like,
normal
people would have.
interaction.
Yeah, yeah. They
And
go at each other and they completely
that
improv it.
scene, it's so funny you say, because that scene stood out to me. I was like, okay, that was different from every other scene in the movie.
And it got the biggest. I will say, from my theater, it got the biggest laugh.
I love that scene.
I loved it too.
I thought it was great.
It was hilarious.
I loved how that guy turned.
Oh yeah,
That was so
the
good.
scene we're talking about. The guy comes in. It's a homecoming party. This guy walks into the garage. Hey, is there a bathroom? Oh yeah, it's down the hall. Hey,
And
nice
it
drum
was
set.
right there. As soon as he
Right.
said the bathroom's right there, I thought, oh, this guy's here on
This
purpose.
guy's hanging around.
Right.
Yeah. So then
So-
they start
anyway.
having a bit of banter, and it's like, oh, it's kind of playing with, because Craig the whole time is wanting male friendship throughout the entire film, and so you kind of start to see him be like, oh, I'm shooting the shit with a guy. This is cool.
Right.
He likes my drums, And then all of a sudden he turns and he's like, that's weird that a guy would then leave his wife in a sewer.
Right.
And then they like scream at each other. It was just so funny.
That was well done.
So now that we're in spoiler territory, Joe, what were some of your favorite moments of the film? What were some of your, did any of them that really got a laugh out of you?
I barely laughed.
Whoa. Okay. So this is
there was a guy in the cinema who's probably there was a guy in the cinema who was just laughing at everything. I laughed at a few things.
Okay.
But I was more like, what the fuck? So it didn't strike me as funny a lot of times because first of all, cringe humor is not it's not my flavor.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
Cause like the studio is cringe humor.
Yeah.
And
doesn't do it for you.
It sometimes. It depends. It depends on the cringe level, and this is so high on the cringe level that it didn't get a lot of laughs out of me. And a lot of times, I couldn't help but think like this guy's on the spectrum, or he's just insane, or actually this is all a dream and none of this is real.
I thought all three of those things
because there were things that happened that made me think this isn't real.
Yeah, there's no way. Towards the end of the film, I was thinking that the whole time it was like a Truman Show kind of thing. I started getting those vibes, like from his wife.
Totally.
The whole movie, she's like, "Oh, I'm hanging out with my ex. I'm hanging out with my ex."
There were so many things about this movie that were like
it's
that.
It has to be. He's like disabled somehow, and this is like a charity thing.
Exactly. Right. And then, but also like the whole frog thing. I thought, oh, maybe that's it. This is just he's been high as balls for the last hour and a half.
Joe, I'm so glad you brought that up because I could not stop laughing at the subway scene.
Well, that was a really good scene. That was a really good scene. And I loved how Paul Rudd was the guy serving him.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd was so good in this.
I just love when he wakes up. I'm trying not to laugh now. He wakes up and the guy comes in.
Were you gone? Did it feel like a month? He's like, no. I just ordered it Subway.
Yeah, it's so good.
That was really funny.
That and the coffee.
Yeah.
He fills the coffee up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like trying to walk through the hall of the office.
Yeah.
Sorry, full cup of coffee coming through. And it's just like, and then he's in the meeting and he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Trying to sip it.
But see, sometimes I wish my mind didn't work the way it does because here we are seeing all these situations where he just puts his foot in it. And I thought, how does he have that wife? How does he have that job? How did no one see this for the last 40 years? And
how's this kid not going, Dad, you're a maniac.
Well, and he just noticed for the first time that his son kisses his mom on the mouth.
Yeah,
and he goes, you kiss her on the lips
again.
And I thought, is this the first time this has ever happened? And the kid is like flirting with his mom. It's do you two need to get a room?
I know.
You know, but I liked that about it because that was just so, again, no sacred cows here. And so yeah, you've got this like 16-year-old kid who's overtly flirting with his mom and then kisses her on the mouth. It's like, oh my God, you're like throwing up in your mouth a little bit. But for the dad to notice that for the first time, there were so many things that happened. Like, when they go to pick the mushrooms and they're just perfect and everything else. And the next time he went out there with his son, they were gross and it was totally, when he tried to go back and do certain, it didn't work. And I just kept thinking, there's going to be a reveal, and this is a dream, or
this is all a fever dream.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, doesn't make any sense at all. Any of his actions,
nope.
None of them.
Nope. So that's where, like, is there a male bonding kind of thing about this in friendship? I thought this is more of a study of this guy's insanity than of male friendship,
and that's fair. But we've got to give it the respect it deserves, right? We'll find a nugget.
We're giving it respect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and we'll find our nugget of
for sure
of theme here.
Okay.
Of male bonding.
All right, we'll work.
So, I love when people find societal tropes or ridiculous things that we do as a society and then make them comedic.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think that we're just setting ourselves up for something really funny because it's relatable, right? It's always funnier, at least in my opinion, when it's relatable. that's when the comedy hits, right?
think
Like his
that's-
reaction to his wife getting kissed on the mouth by his
Right.
kid. He's like, what
Right.
the? You kiss her?
Yeah.
That was just so funny because all of
Agreed.
our reactions would be like,
Exactly.
what the hell?
Funny. I think Chris Rock was so good at that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So good at that.
That's somebody else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just so good.
And Tim
Anyway.
Robinson as well.
Yeah. And Tim. Yeah.
So the murky waters of male friendship is one of those societal tropes that falls into that category. Guys are just funny. You know, like we're just funny beings. Like I can't even say I love you to my guy friends. Like I've got
Wait
friends.
till you get older.
Right. I've got friends of mine that I've been friends with longer than I've been not friends with them. You know, like I met them when I was like 12, 11 or 12. We're still friends to this day.
Yeah.
We still talk all the time.
Yeah.
And when we like get off the phone or something, we say, much love, man.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we can't go that extra
Yeah.
step
Love you.
to say, I love you.
Yeah.
And that's
I know.
just like a society thing of like guys can't do that somehow. You know what I mean? And I think this movie really plays into those
For sure.
in a really funny way.
Yeah. For sure. Oh,
I-
when the guys were singing together, that was pretty funny.
Hilarious.
That was funny. Yeah.
hilarious. I think sometimes it's, and I can only, you know, I'm saying this as a guy, so I could be wrong here, but I feel like sometimes it's easier for women to make friends because it's more socially acceptable for them to just go up to each other and strike up a conversation and give a compliment. It's less socially acceptable for a guy to go, hey man, I like your jacket. You know, women, it's just different. They, you know, love your shoes. And it's like they're friends now and they're besties and whatever. Like dudes, it's just different. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Do you feel that at all, or am I completely out on a limb? Here?
You're not totally out on a limb, but you just made me think like I've worked in an Apple store for a spell, and that's the first thing I would do walking up to a customer. God, I love those shoes, man, because people always love that. You know?
Yeah. You want to
It's like,
spark
oh.
up the
But
societally speaking.
I hear you.
I'm not talking about you or me or
I guess no. I guess you're right. It's
just as a society.
I don't know. Because guys, I think also can be really easy. Like if you're all watching a ball game at a bar or something.
Right, we need stuff like that to break the barrier.
Okay.
Otherwise, we find a commonality.
Otherwise, yeah, if a guy came up to you and go, hey,
Maybe
I like your
that's what it
shoes, and be
is.
like, hey, back off, dude.
Maybe that's what it is. Women don't need that. They don't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
they don't need anything to be like, oh, we're both.
Yeah,
you know,
I get what you're saying.
The, Guys need like something that breaks the barrier of like, you're a football fan too, man. This
Right.
game's crazy, huh? And then now you're boys.
exactly.
Now you're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
So I was curious. Have you ever just struck up a conversation with a guy, with a complete stranger, and then you guys went on to become good friends?
Good friends. It's funny because I think about there's a place I go to in Studio City, have a drink. I've met so many people there. Like if I become good friends with any of them.
Yeah, good. I'm talking about you guys talk all the time, like you're close
No.
friends.
No.
Okay,
You?
I have
Really?
one.
You just met some dude randomly.
One. I was at a networking
Dude,
event.
what time's
To
the
be
bus
fair,
come?
yeah. I was at a networking event. To be fair, and
Okay.
I just went up to this guy and I was like, "Hey, can I butt in here? This conversation? Hey, what's going on, man?"
Oh,
I just
interesting.
we're like best friends now. His
That was
name's Mark.
gutsy.
Shout out to Mark.
What drove you to go up and like, I'm going to bust into this conversation?
I think it was the context. I was in a networking event,
Fair enough.
so it was like I just needed to do that.
Yeah.
It just so
Okay.
happened that he was the one. I don't know why it was him, but it was just like,
Well,
oh, here's a, you know,
yeah. Well,
hey, man.
That's what you do with those things anyway.
can I butt in here? And then boom.
Yeah.
But we like went off in our own little corner.
Oh, well.
It's funny. We went off in like our own little corner and we talked for like an hour and I was like, shit,
Well,
I gotta go home, man.
That's why, because you gave me the end at the beginning of the story that you have become, you became really good friends with this guy. That's why I was wondering, was there something that you just thought, hey, I'm going to talk to this guy? You know what I mean?
No, it was. I didn't have that barrier.
Yeah.
It just was a purely just random occurrence.
Okay.
And I was
Right
just,
on.
it was just, and then we just started clicking on a bunch of different levels. We had a lot of things in common, and it was like, can I get your number, man? We should hang. That's never happened to me with a guy, and I think that's just
Yeah.
a society thing.
I wonder if that's something more common with women. Like, could women say, "Oh yeah, I just walked up to somebody and started talking to him. We became friends." I wonder if that's a gender specific thing. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Sure.
But I get what you're saying about for guys.
I've got a point here I'm getting to, but in this film we watch as Craig is a socially awkward husband and
To
father,
say the least.
gets a man crush on his new neighbor Austin, played by Paul Rudd. Austin is this cool, charismatic,
Weatherman.
handsome. He's got a good job. He's in a
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
He's a weatherman. You know, he's
Yeah.
like a cool guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a lot of things that I think Craig isn't. And so Craig is very drawn to him. We see it like immediately on his facial expressions. Every time he's looking at him, he's like in awe of this guy. But we watch as he wants the friendship a little bit too much. And he does some weird shit. And then he tries to be funny. It doesn't land. Things don't pan out. And then it starts to get real awkward because this guy, again, can't read a room, can't take a hint. He just keeps going at it, you know? And Craig has a line in the film where he says, "You guys let me in too quickly. You can't do that." And I thought that summarizes this film perfectly to me.
Yeah, that's
because Craig got a glimpse of how amazing it feels to bond with other men that are similar in age, and they're like going through similar things. They've got kids, and you're all talking and sitting around having a beer, just talk about cars and music, and sometimes break out into song. He felt how warm, how inviting, how comforting that was, as opposed to his mundane life, which, as his wife said, you sit there every day. You just sit in the chair.
And you could tell he had no friends, and his wife was the only person he did things with.
Exactly. So
And why she was with him anyway.
He got it right. He got a glimpse, and he couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I think that's the brilliance of this film. He shows up at his work, breaks into his house. I mean, the guy just does some really bizarre shit. But he can't let go of this beautiful thing that he felt for all of, a couple of days, a week?
Exactly.
I don't know how long it was, but he was friends with this guy for like a week.
And he was fantasizing during, certain sequences in the film. He's even aggrandizing it even more, part of why I think this guy can't read a room. He's living in his own dream,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time he sees like a scenario, he's like playing it out in his head of like how cool it would be if it was me and him up there on stage.
Right.
On the drums.
Right.
Or how cool would it be if it's me and him in the Corvette driving down the...
Exactly.
Like, he's like imagining how cool it'd be. And I think he puts too much pressure on himself then. So he goes overboard.
Yep.
In trying to be funny with the soap in the mouth and all these things that they're just weird as shit.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Exactly.
We can't hang with this guy anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't blame them.
I mean, it's reasonable that he would feel this way to a degree. We can have a suspension of belief, because the first time he hangs out with them, they're drinking beer and singing Ghost Town DJ's "My Boo" a cappella.
Right.
You're gonna
Like
get
in
sucked
harmony.
in.
Yeah.
Hey, anybody would. That's gonna mess a guy up. He's looking around in amazement at all these grown men enjoying each other's presence.
In amazement, in a very envious, incredulous kind of way.
Yeah, his face is kind of like, oh my God.
What are these guys doing?
This is so cool.
Yeah.
It's
great.
male bonding at its finest.
Yeah.
And boy, is it a funny thing. And it just gets a little bit away from him.
Mm-hmm. Boy, doesn't it?
And that's what me and you were saying. That's what pushed our buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. It's taking all the worst impulses of things you would never act on and absolutely doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's...
And he just can't help it. Like with the van.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He sees the Corvette. His Austin neighbor
And
gets
even
the dream
messes that
car.
up.
Sees it. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then he goes out and his wife's, which was also really weird, that his ex-wife now, I guess, is like living with this other guy or something.
Yeah, the pool house was a ruse.
And
She was never going to stay in his pool house.
And he finally buys her like the bigger car.
Yeah.
That's where I say like things just, where you're talking about too, things just didn't make sense. Of like, he never got...
Well, I think...
This guy's giving a speech about how he's basically banging your wife. He's in love with your wife. He's like the most
Yeah.
special person in the world.
Yeah. And he just, blew completely
Things
past
were
him.
just not clicking for that guy.
Well, I wondered, again, I wondered if it was going to be a reveal at the end that this was a dream. I wondered if it were just he was high on frog venom. I didn't know what it was. And that's where I couldn't take anything at face value, particularly, and we're already into spoiler territory, when he's in the police car and Paul Rudd's character turns and looks at him and winks at him. I thought, is this whole thing a joke?
And he perks up, too. He's like...
And he perked up. But I just thought, oh... You know what I felt like? I felt Paul Rudd was winking at us. I felt like he was winking at the whole audience, like, huh? That's how it felt to me.
Okay. And that's a fair assessment to make.
Yeah, that might not have been what he meant or what they intended, but that's how it felt, because I just felt like the whole thing was such tongue in cheek, and it was so, at times it just felt like, I thought whoever wrote this had to be really high or just super creative, but it was so
Abstract.
Abstract. Because
Yeah,
I was
so
thinking
far
non
outside of like the original or like the ordinary, like mundane mull of life.
And
it was so bizarre.
It's so bizarre, and that's where we're giving it points for that.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, did a lot of it not make sense at all? 100%.
For sure.
But could I, again, look past some of that to appreciate what this movie did? Sure.
Yeah.
It was original. It was funny.
Yeah.
And it pushed my buttons. It evoked
For me
an emotion
too.
for me.
For me too.
So mission accomplished.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that they did a good job.
Yeah. Of what they did, of this flavor, they did a really good job.
Yeah. I think people are enjoying it. I mean, I'm looking at reviews and stuff. I mean, it's getting good critics and
it sure
audience
is.
reviews.
New York Times, Roger Ebert. Yeah, it is getting
Everybody. Yeah. I mean, I think they're hopefully approaching it with the same mindset of like, I can appreciate this for what it is.
Right. Yeah. And
even if it's not my flavor.
True. And in retrospect, things like the glass window, it's pretty funny. In retrospect, some of these things I think are kind of growing on me.
I mean, that's just hilarious. And when he comes back in later and he's got the gun and he's waving it around and he's like, is this about the glass door? Like I said, I would repair it. You know what I mean? It's just so
dude,
funny.
that's the last thing on the list.
And then like
about.
Paul Rudd falls down because I think he points the gun at him or something.
Yeah.
And he like falls down.
And then he lets him know, your wig.
And then his last, like, that's where I thought that was like a callback and a good bookend. So I didn't like the wink, but I liked that bookend of like, even now, even after everything that's happened, after he's been humiliated, clearly these guys are like, this guy's a jackass. Get him out of here, please.
He's still going to do him a solid.
He's still going to do him a solid.
Yeah.
In his last final thing of like, hey, get down on the ground, everyone. Put your toupee back on. Get down, everybody. You know, he's still at the end going to do that. And so I thought that was a good bookend.
I thought so too.
It just, maybe stop it right there.
Yeah.
So, well, it feels like we half enjoyed it.
Yes.
I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Half
enjoyed it, but more kind of respected it.
Respect. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely respect it.
If you enjoyed the movie Friendship and you want to see more movies like it, here's 5 you can stream.
Anything like it
right now? Yeah, like we can't get close. We'll try to get as close as we can.
I'm sure you will.
For a movie about trying to tell a guy you don't really like him, but he doesn't understand, check out the 2022 film The Banshees of Inisherin. You can watch that on Prime Video. For a movie about a guy needing to find a best man before his wedding, check out the 2009 film
Oh my God.
I Love You Man on Paramount Plus. That's a Paul Rudd classic.
Yes, exactly. It sure is.
For a movie about marrying your best friend to keep your insurance benefits, check out the 2007 film I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
Oh my God.
That's got Adam Sandler. Watch that on Netflix. That's a classic. For a movie about a childhood game that a group of friends keeps going into adulthood for whatever reason, check out the 2018 film Tag.
Don't know that one.
You can watch that on Prime Video.
Okay.
And for a movie about a group of famous guys trying to survive the apocalypse, check out the 2013 film This Is the End on Prime Video. So what did we learn from watching Friendship, Joe?
Please tell us, Ryan.
That if you receive your neighbor's package by mistake, just deliver it to their front door. Don't knock. Don't.
Just
you
leave it
never
there.
know what's going to happen or where that's going to lead you. You're better off just leaving that go. You might end up in a cop car.
That's
Who
a great
knows?
lesson. Yeah, exactly.
However, we can take something from this movie, and that's the fact that society has placed a real damper on men being able to connect with other men intimately without it being weird.
Okay.
We can have friendships and companionships with other guys, and it doesn't have to be strange or awkward just because society says so. Be you, strike up a conversation with that guy. You never know where that might take you. It might take you to starting a podcast together and shooting over 50 episodes.
Love you, man.
You won't know if you don't try. Love you too, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character in your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture, people. Because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are not just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.